I want to make a quick additional note, and I don't have it on here, but there's a thing we call the naturalistic fallacy. The naturalistic fallacy is the idea that just because something is a descriptive, just because it is a certain way, doesn't mean it should be that way. That we have a tendency to think that because things are natural, that they should be that way. And what I would say, and that's one criticism that comes along, and one thing I want to kind of caution you about is that if there is a descriptive theory, things are a certain way, that gives us reason to think that that may be a good reason to make a prescriptive theory. But the naturalistic fallacy says it's a mistake to then conclude that that's the way they should be. As an example, I guess one of the reasons why they do it is the idea that, let's suppose, for example, that you and I were sitting in a hall together, in a hallway, at Lincoln Land Community College here, and we're sitting there talking on a bench, along the hallway, and somebody starts coming up behind you where I can easily see them with a baseball bat about to hit you in the head. Now, if I didn't tell you that the person was approaching, that would be pretty morally suspect. That would be a bad thing. And I would be, just as guilty probably of hitting you in the head with that baseball bat as the person doing it, if I didn't at least give you some sort of warning that it was about to happen. But if I was blind and unable to know that somebody was coming, you couldn't hold me to account. I would be morally blameless because I was unable to do anything differently. And so the naturalistic approach to this, descriptive to prescriptive, is the idea that, if I am naturally inclined to be one way, then it's not right to hold me to account for something I can't control. I am naturally inclined to do things a certain way, and so I shouldn't be held to account. And that is essentially where it is people tend to form up their own opinions, and so we should just, accept that. But on the other hand, what the naturalistic fallacy says is just because something's natural doesn't mean it is. That you're right, we shouldn't hold people to account for something they can't control, but at the same time, we also shouldn't simply say that because something is natural or because people are inclined one way that they should be that way. And the example that gets given with this is the idea that comes out of this is that, for example, like some people are inclined towards road rage and anger and other things, right? And so what happens is, to a certain degree, it is a natural fight or flight response that when somebody makes you mad or gets you angry, that adrenaline pulses and you get into a fight or flight stance and you become angry. And that leads to road rage and other things. So that's natural. Does that make it the right thing to do? Should you engage in road rage? Should you get angry and yell? Should you hit? No. And so just because you are inclined towards that doesn't mean you should. It does give you reason. It's something we need to pay attention to, but it doesn't make it where that has to be the case. And that's where the naturalistic fallacy comes along, and one thing we need to keep in mind on this.